My name is Christian. I'm one of the two co-founders of Container Exchange, and we operate a neutral online platform for container logistics or container operations, essentially bringing together container owners and container users in a neutral environment. We have set up this SOC Masterclass to talk a little bit about SOCs, to shed some light on this world of SOC containers, and to show you what you can achieve with SOCs in your day-to-day business. You might ask yourself, what is an SOC? What is a shipper-owned container? And in short, it's essentially a container that the shipper or the freight forwarder, as a representative of the shipper, brings to the shipping line as their own box, instead of booking the full service offering of the mainliner. In terms of benefits of SOCs, why would I ever do that? There's three main benefits to be had. Firstly, it can help you when you have exports from locations that face an equipment scarcity. It's in everybody's minds right now in the COVID crisis. There's not enough containers around, specifically in inland locations. So containers, when you book them from a shipping line, are either not available, so they just can't fulfill the booking, or you have to bring them in from far away locations and pay significant trucking costs. So you might be able to save on that. The second benefit of SOC containers are lower freight rates, oftentimes particularly when you ship into locations with a significant equipment surplus. So imagine you ship containers into Santos, Brazil. They are piling up there anyways because it's a big import location. So the shipping lines are always happy when they don't have to bring their own boxes into these locations and then repositioning them out empty again. And so usually you'd be able to get a significant freight rate discount when you bring your own box, when you bring your SOC container. And the third benefit that you can typically expect or work towards is that SOCs oftentimes act as an effective insurance against detention charges in the port of loading, but also in the port of destination. Why is that? Well, everybody knows that detention charges can amount to a very significant value very, very quickly. Imagine you have 7 free days at destination. You bring back your container 3 days too late because there was some holdup at your consignee's factory. So the container was standing around for a number of days. These 3 days of overtime can already amount to tens of dollars or sometimes hundreds of dollars, which ruins every freight rate calculation. With SOCs, you don't have that issue because it's your own box that you bring. The shipping line cannot charge you any fees for that. With all those benefits, of course, there also comes a couple of challenges, and those are mostly operational nature. They can all be solved, they can all be addressed, of course, also with Exchange. But for example, you have some additional process steps because you have to source your containers, you have to book the slots separately from the container, you have to manage separate deals, etc., etc. This, of course, represents an opportunity for particularly smaller and more nimble freight forwarders to jump in and compete with the big guys on a level playing field, essentially gaining an additional competitive advantage. Now, of course, I could give you hundreds of reasons why Exchange is the perfect place to look for SOC containers, book SOC containers, manage SOC containers, but I'd much rather hand over to Vinod, General Manager of Nerida Shipping, one of our customers, who will talk to you about why he uses SOC containers, why he uses Exchange, and enable you to learn a little bit from his experience. Have fun. I hope you enjoy the session and hope to see you very soon.
My name is Vinod Krishnan, and we are operating in India by the name of Nerida Shipping Private Limited. And we have an NVOCC registered in Singapore by the name of Oceanus Container Lines. And under Nerida Shipping, we are operating as an agency outfit, handling different principals containers here as agents. And also we are involved into one-way repositioning for the leasing companies, for the traders, container traders, or for mainline operators, wherever it is possible. We predominantly operate between China, Southeast Asia, and Indian subcontinent and the Middle East. Benefits in the sense we are a small operator, so it's a mutual help, you can put it, for mainline operators or for the leasing companies who wants their containers to be repositioned from a fairly low demand area to a demand area where they can lease out their containers. So we act as an intermediary to reposition these containers on their behalf and redeliver it to them to their preferred locations. So for operators like us, we have the benefit of having the equipments and moving our cargo using a third-party feeder operator's space. So these are some small benefits to cater to customers, who are not volume customers. We basically target small customers to move their cargo, which is mutually helpful for all the parties concerned. SOC containers is predominantly shipper-owned containers. So when you talk to me about SOC containers, I would say a shipper who owns his container and who wants his cargo to be moved in his own container from point A to point B. So we act as an intermediary to find space for them and carry it from each locations from point A to point B and redeliver it to them at the respective port of discharge. Then SOC containers can be termed from a mainline operator's perspective. Our containers would be considered, we are an NVOCC operators. So our containers, a mainline operator would consider it as an SOC container. Whereas we prefer to move our containers through a feeder operator who generally release space on their ships to carry our cargo and our containers from point A to point B. So this is the small difference between shipper. SOC is shipper-owned container, COC is carrier-owned containers. I would say an NVOCC operator is a carrier without a ship. So they mainly depend on feeder operators for space to move their containers from point A to point B. So they cater to customers, not big customers, but at least mid-level or small-level customers to move their containers and you move their cargo as a carrier. On one-way containers and SOC containers or COC containers, the main challenge is getting space from the feeder operators. That is a toughest challenge, and especially when the demands are high, it becomes quite difficult to get the space and arrange movement of these containers. So there are options for that. You go for committed space by paying debt freight and all those things, debt freight to the feeder operator, and you secure the space and move these containers. On one-way repositioning, the challenges are to maintain the committed time period of redelivery of the containers. That's the main challenge. If you commit 30 days, 5 or 10 days is barely acceptable. But then beyond that, sometimes the situation goes out of control. So those are the big challenges. Another challenge is because of one-way containers is abandoning of cargo by the shippers, by the consignees. If the consignees abandon the cargo, then you are liable for redelivery of the containers. So there are pros and cons in this one-way repositioning of containers also. Exchange for me personally has been quite useful, and they have helped me to source one-way containers from various traders, leasing companies, from mainline carriers. Exchange has helped me to establish contacts with more traders and more carriers who would be interested to move their stock from excess lying to a low lying area. And of course, most important thing is money. As I told earlier, exchange has been quite helpful. At least it gives me a safety that the money that I'm paying to the supplier is protected, and there is a guarantee, someone who takes the responsibility to ensure that the transaction goes out smoothly.